Today, I decided to discuss a topic that can be difficult to prove to your loved ones, to outsiders, and most importantly, to the courts if not handled in a very specific and careful way. I've been seeing this become more common, and it's personal to me. Although the word gets thrown around very loosely, it's a very real and serious situation, and there are many people living in a very dangerous and toxic environment right now. Today, we're diving into something heavy, painful, and often misunderstood: narcissism. Being the victim of narcissistic abuse has never really been taken serious, at least not by the court system. It's very hard to prove your case depending on the kind of narcissist you're dealing with. They're very intelligent, chess players. They're always a step ahead. They're very observant, so they know you inside and out. They know your responses before you do. They know how to get you to react the way they want you to. It's like you're a puppet. So if not careful when going through court procedures, custody battles, not being in control of your own emotions and your actions, they know how to pull the strings with you to get you to react in a way that will make their statements against you look true in front of courts, in front of CPS. And this has been documented time and time again for many different couples. When you have a narcissist with many resources and people at his fingertips or hers, in most cases, the victim has already lost custody, lost everything. It's very easy for a narcissist to make their victim look crazy, mentally unwell, unfit, and aggressive, amongst other things, because they've been molding them to be that way for years. For most victims, it takes years before they even realize the situation that they were in, even if they do realize. Because for a long period of the relationship, they've actually believed that they might be crazy and that things are probably their fault. It's a very psychological mindfuck. Sometimes it's not until you've left the relationship and you've had some healing that you can look back and say, what the fuck? That was all premeditated. I was prey. They didn't love me. It was never love. And that's how intense and damaging that type of abuse can be on a person's mind and life. It's mental warfare on the mind. You are literally sleeping with the enemy. And that's a really scary thought. So let's get into it. When most people hear the word narcissist, they think of someone who's arrogant, self-absorbed, maybe even obsessed with their looks. But in reality, it is so much deeper. Narcissism falls under what's called narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD. It's a real diagnosis. These are people who crave admiration, lack empathy, and often manipulate to get what they want. But here's the kicker. Not every narcissist acts the same. Their tactics may be the same, but there are levels to how intense that they'll carry them out. See, some narcissists just carry traits, and some meet the full-blown clinical diagnosis. And then you have what's called malignant narcissism, the most dangerous type, combining narcissism with cruelty, paranoia, and even sadism. The big question people often ask, are narcissists born or made? And science says it's both. Genetics play a role, but so does childhood. Some grew up neglected and abused, and others were only loved for their achievements. Some were overpraised with no boundaries at all. Brain scans even show differences in less gray matter in the areas that handle empathy and compassion, meaning they know what emotions are. They just don't process them like most of us do. Another question I hear a lot is, do they know what they're doing? Short answer, abso-fucking-lutely. Narcissists are very aware of their actions. Gaslighting, silent treatment, holding sex, love bombing, those aren't accidents. They're strategies. They know it confuses you. They know it makes you dependent, and they know that it keeps them in control. It's not about love, and that's the most important thing I need victims and everyone to understand. It's not about love. It's about power. At the core, their motive is simple: stay in control, avoid shame, feed their fragile ego, no matter the cost. And they'll do whatever it takes to protect that false narrative of themselves that they've created to the world. And here's where it gets real. Living with a narcissist can change your brain, not just emotionally, but physically. Research shows chronic stress from abuse can damage the hippocampus. This is the part of your brain that handles memory. and it shrinks the gray matter. And that's what helps you think clearly and regulate emotions. And that leads to complex PTSD, which causes hypervigilance, flashbacks, anxiety. And that doesn't just go away when you leave. So, in other words, it's not just in your head. The abuse literally rewires your brain, and it could take years to come back from that kind of damage. It took me 2 years just to come out of my shell. I'm still healing now after 3 years of separation. I spent 10 years with my narcissist, and science says the longer you stay, the more difficult it is to heal. One of the hardest things to talk about is when children are involved. Kids who grow up with narcissistic parents don't just have a tough childhood, they often live in survival mode. Sometimes they're made to be the golden child, placed on a pedestal. Other times they're the scapegoat, blamed for everything, and neither role is healthy. They even pick up these narcissistic tendencies and they repeat what they see in the world. As adults, these children will struggle with boundaries, people pleasing, self-worth, and relationships. And it's not because they're broken, it's because their brain and their identity were shaped in an unsafe environment. My daughter was 3 weeks old, and that gave me the strength to say no more. I refused to allow her to think anything about my marriage was normal or okay. I was determined to keep her heart and her mind safe and free from his poison. Today she's 3 and she's peaceful, and her safe, non-toxic environment shows in her behavior, in her peace, in her intelligence, in her outgoing and very loving demeanor. If you ever lived with a narcissist, you know that feeling of walking on eggshells. One moment they're showering you with love, and the next they're tearing you down. You never know which version you're going to get, and over time, the cycles of the highs and lows is what breaks you down. Isolation is almost always part of that pattern. They slowly cut you off from friends, family, and support. So when you need help the most, you feel completely alone. And here's the truth. Leaving isn't easy. In fact, it can be very dangerous. And that's why having a plan is so important. Here are a few tips. Know your safety exit. Map it out, have it planned, especially if you have children. Have all your finances, legal support, all important documents already together and preferably gone in a secure place. Stick to the plan no matter how much they beg, guilt, or threaten. Personally, I wouldn't even recommend leaving in front of them. Leave when they're not there. Leave the second that you can go. And that's why you need to have everything else prepared, because the second you have that time to leave, everything else should already be done. Document everything. Texts, emails, incidents, especially if kids are involved. Create a new email and send all that documentation that you're keeping to that email. Get a throwaway phone. Don't even use your phone. Chances are they've already been all up in your phone and can have a secret squirrel app downloaded into it that they can always go to retrieve any information they want. And if you think that's over the top, it's really not. It's exactly what I went through. You'd be surprised at things that he did, and even more surprised about the things that are available for people to use. If possible, no contact. If you can't, then very minimal contact with very strong boundaries. Remember, they will try to pull you back in, and that's called hovering, and it's just another tactic. So here's my final thoughts. Narcissism isn't just someone being selfish or rude. It's a deep, destructive disorder that impacts everyone around you. The emotional, physical, and neurological damage is fucking real. But the good news is healing is possible with the right support, the right tools, and strong boundaries. You can rebuild yourself. You can reclaim your voice, and you can create a life in your own control. If anything I said today hit home and you're realizing that you might be dealing with a narcissist, know this: you're not alone. I know it can feel extremely lonely. I never felt more alone in my entire life, and healing was definitely a long road. It took me years, but I made it through onto the other side, strong, happy, and with my baby girl. So you can do it too. If you're ready for help and you don't know where to start, check out my website, lifeontheotherside.info. I have an ebook with all the information that you need. It includes resources, escape plans, what to do if, directions on how to document, how to leave, what to do when children are involved, and so much more. Always be a step ahead. It's time to act from your mind and not your heart. And don't leave a paper trail that can be tracked or followed. If you're searching online, use private browsing or a trusted device. Personally, my husband was so great on computers and with secret squirrel apps and all that crazy shit. So I would recommend using anything that your person has no access to. The library is always great to go to. There's a lot of people, it's free to use their computers, and it erases everything when you're done. If you need to call for help, use a phone that you know they can't monitor. Your safety comes first, and you never know the extremes that they're willing to go. I assure you, they're willing to go pretty far not to lose their source of energy, their lifeline, because ultimately that's what we are to them. They're energy vampires, and they need us to survive. Thank you for sharing this space with me today. And if you know anyone who can benefit from this video, please share it. Remember, your healing matters, your voice matters, and you do deserve peace. And you're not fucking crazy. I promise.